Jolliancher says hello, Teach.
Hello. Hello. How are you going? How are you on? How's life going? Hello. How are you, Kara? What's going on? Hello. How goes it? That's fine. There we go. Okay, finger about here. Okay, far from there. Up there. Up there. Oh, that's something I'm gonna be using in a second. That's good, Anthony. What's going on, bro? What brings you to the neighborhood, Ant? What brings you to the neighborhood? Oop, what's wrong? That mic is way too high. Wait, fix that.
Jolliancher says looks good. Crashoutric says WSP bro.
Hey, what's up, Rick? What's going on, dude? Hey, what's going on, dude? Hope life is going well for you. Very much so. Okay, fingers about here. Okay, that. Hello. I'll say good. More like a quick. Whoa, whoa. Hey, boy, what's going on? Boy, from Instagram, I see you over there. And, honestly, good enough. More like a quick drawing session. But thank you. I'll take the compliment. Okay. Oh, wait. Where are you hearing me from? You can't hear me? Seriously? Let me see. No, the mic says working. Yeah. It's crazy. The mic's working, right? Let me see here. Okay. Not really should be like this. Like that. Okay. My dogs. It looks okay. We need to move these out of the way. And then we go back and we do the next one, next batch. Okay, we put like this. Some about here. Oop, too big. Too big. Too big. Hi all. music that can be shared. Oh, that's new. Okay, resume. Okay, so I'll just turn it down though. There we go. There we go. At least they gave me a warning, so I just turning it off. That should be really annoying. Really annoying. Hate it very much so. Okay. So about the hand about here. Like that. It's a little hard to see it, but we'll make sense of it as we go. Like this. Okay. I'll be with myself.
Jollyincher says wouldn't the thumb be shown more since it's outstretched?
Not really, because it's not really stretching out. The angle's going like this. It's not really stretching out like this. But even if it was, all of them will be stretched out. You still see everything. It's just that the angle's going like this. I don't know which one you're watching. But my hands will be
Jollyincher says oh gotcha. I see it now.
Yeah. It's not really stretched out based on the reference that I'm looking at here. Let me see here. It's just kind of like if someone, if you're looking at someone and they put your hand like this, but you're looking at it from the front. So there's nothing really stretched, it's just their hand is left out. That makes sense. Maybe get this right where the fingers are going to be placed. So right now here. And then the hand will be about here. Okay, but there. Okay, and then what we'll do is turn it down a little bit, and then we'll retrace over it.
Jollyincher says I've seen one where it shows like the hand like directly in front of you. Kind looks 3D almost.
Yeah, I get that form in. So it's like this. And the other hand is kind of like connected to this. Okay, like that. This. Losing the barrier in there. Okay. I know it looks kind of ridiculous, but that's part of the process. That looks a little ridiculous before you feel like you're doing it right. Like that. Okay, and then as I'm going, I'm gonna try and get this around.
Jollyincher says a lot of other artists I've heard said you can also make a hand look more realistic with shadows.
Yeah. Also it lines. Put those forms in. That's what forms are for. You can get for light and shadow.
Jollyincher says like an underlaying shadow or something they called it.
Yep. I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. Okay, like that. No, I'm gonna grab this right here. About there. Okay. Now we need to push this in a little bit more. It's a little bit too out there. There we go. Now it looks a little ridiculous, but don't worry. I'll give the upness here. Okay. Okay, almost there. Almost there. As I go. I'll turn this down a little bit. Get rid of this. Oops. Okay, curve it like this. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is put this up here and make the little bumps and lumps here. Bumps and lumps. Okay. Like that. There. Huh. Hey. Well. Okay, there we go. And then just gotta tighten this more. Okay. Okay. Coming up pretty good. Oop. Oh, that's just easy. I think that's close enough. Hands is not as hard as you think. You just need to know the structure, and then it kind of makes sense after a while. It's like, oh, I get it now. It's not as hard as most people may think it is. It's hard, but it's not hard. It's more of like making sense of the fingers than anything and making sure the construction makes sense to a degree. To a certain degree. And then the other hand. There you go. You can actually see the hand from this point. It's just like, it's not as hard. It's just, you have to just make sense of the construction. And then you can say, oh, I can see it. I think the problem is that people forget like the knuckles and the bending of the hands to a degree. So they get all hang up too much on certain things. It's really, it's hard. And then once you have an initial sketch, you really can see it. You can actually see it, and then you can just like refine it more and just retrace it over and over and over again till it looks like a hand. That's the secret. Oh, digitally, I'm saying. It's a pain in the ass doing it traditionally, but like, it's not that hard. That's why I came to realize when I did the 100 hand challenge way back when. Hello. Hey, level. Laugh. What's up, laugh? Hey, laugh. How are you doing, hon? Put your hands in. There we go.
The wild artist says I'm okay and you.
I'm doing well. Just doing my thing. Doing a quick hand section. Drawing some hands. Real quick. Just wanted to put some quick practice in. Some quick practice. I think we did a good job with the quick practice right now. So right now I'm just doing that. Alright. Time to stop this. Alright, so let's see what this guy says. Oh, you're too big.
What kind of Mac Pro, and I'm using a Cintiq 22-inch touch. And I will be working in Photoshop today. But nothing I do will be Photoshop specific unless if I use the liquify tool, which I may or may not use. But everything else is basic blending and creating value. So if you're working with like paint tool side, you're just as good as if you're working in Photoshop or GIMP or any of those other things. And then while I'm doing the demo, I'm also going to be putting a little box in the corner. I'm going to zoom in. My handwriting's a lot better when I can actually get more of my handwriting in, when I can see it. As you can see, we're going to be working on 17 by 13, but I want a 300 resolution instead of a 72. Okay. So now I'm going to put in the corner tallies for which Pokemon we're going to be drawing today.
Alright. So how is this gonna go?
And last week we actually did Magikarp. And I was super surprised that that was the one you guys picked. But in second place, I believe, was Jigglypuff or Snorlax. So I wouldn't be surprised if those make their way back into the tally today. So if you want to put which one you want to see, I'm going to write down the name, and that will count as 1. And then for every one after that, it'll have a line next to it. And whichever one has the most at, let's say, 3:15-ish, if that's how long the initial demos take, that's when we'll go ahead and get started. Or maybe 3. I feel like we could probably get through through Frederick pretty quickly, no offense, Frederick. And then we will go ahead, I'll find a quick reference or two of what Pokemon I'm drawing, and then we'll go ahead and do it. But remember, if you're voting, please put at CG Cookie Concept in the comments before so I can see it pretty quickly. So like right now, I'm going to take a few. I think you guys are just as eager to see that. So we got, let's see, Dratini. Oh, that would be an interesting
I find it funny that his camera is ass, but everything else is working.
Ekans.
So weird. That must be a camera problem, not even an internet problem.
Gengar. Oh, that was another popular one from last week.
Alright, let's get to the point, because he's just gonna...
Oh boy, yeah, you guys cute. And then we'll go... But that's only to realism, because I think that's where a lot of artists struggle. Okay, let me... Very quick. Oh, could I write the name? Yes, I can. Thank you for asking, Artextric. So the animation studio that they created is called Tonko House, and they actually did an art book right here that was for their original short, The Dam Keeper. I don't know how well you can see this.
Oh, I know who
see
that
this
is.
Little pig. If you guys don't know, I'm a huge lover of that animal. I think pigs are majestic creatures, and they should be treated as such. But essentially, what was great about this book, not only did it go over their entire process, but they did step-by-steps on showing like how they actually did the animation. And my favorite thing that I learned, because I read this book yesterday, and I digested it. I ate it up and I digested it for this yesterday, because we're actually creating a new video game at CG Cookie, and I was appointed art director, and I feel like I never worked in the industry, so I have to teach myself a lot. And I know that I'm going to stumble, and that's okay, because I think one of the better things about being a concept artist is the mentality of I will grow and progress if I fail. So I'm just going to run full speed. And this was one of the things where I was like, okay, I need to really read and digest this book. But they have a whole section on how they created the pig character.
Thank you, love.
And what I found really interesting, I know it's probably really small for you guys to see, I'm sorry, but I highly recommend this book, by the way. But one of the things I found interesting is they use adjustment layers for their color and light. They don't paint on with like new layers of overlay. They actually just create an adjustment layer and then create their light that way. So that is a very interesting way of doing it. I'm going to experiment myself and see if I like that way of creating light and shadow in my pieces.
Okay.
But that was just one example of people that I really respect and admire with their use of color and light. And if you have artists that you really like, or even if it's like Loesch or one of the more popular artists, really look into how do they do their process. All right, sorry, I'm going on tangents. I can tend to ramble if I get excited over a subject. But Tonko House is the animation studio. You should definitely look them up. And they're on YouTube as well. So they have a few free tutorials you can check out on YouTube. And I'll put a link in the description after. All right, anyways. Let's go back to our duck color.
Okay, let's get this right.
Okay, so if this is our base color, this is our diffuse color if you're more involved with 3D art. And essentially, that is the color of the object. So if we're looking around, the color of this mug, even though it's reflective, is a blue. And I'd have to figure out what the hue, saturation, and value of actual diffuse color, so I'd have to put it in as neutral as lighting as humanly possible. And I would grab that color, and that would essentially be the diffuse color.
The
Then
wild
as we start
artist
throwing
says,
in the
lol, I'm
shadows and
doing
the lights,
3D
that's
art
when the color
RNNN.
starts to either become more saturated, less saturated, or becomes lighter or
Ah,
darker.
look at that. You came
There's
at
a lot
the
of
right
things
time.
that can affect the diffuse
You
color
The
came at
based
the
wild
on the light
artist says, he
lighting that
brie.
it's in. So first, I'm going to show you guys what not to do. And honestly, it's not one of those things where you have to feel ashamed if you are doing this. This is something that, and I don't want to say it's like the absolutely do not. It's just a rule that I tend to follow, and it seems to really work. So I hope that this will help you guys with your own work if you feel like your colors and the way that you're treating lighting isn't really coming out the way that you want it. I'm going to put a neutral gray behind here so we can see the white here. Oh, and really quick, I should probably answer a few questions. I'm sorry if I get kind of sidetracked. Sometimes I do that and I just ramble on. But I promise that I have the comments right in front of me, so I'm going to keep looking at those as well. Okay, Christy says, would you say that the background color can affect the colors a person chooses?
Correct. Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Working on a white background is intimidating.
Horrible.
It's one of the things that
The
I was told
wild artist
halfway
says, I'm
through my
going
art
over to YouTube.
college is we would be painting in Photoshop, and
Okay,
the
hon.
teacher said, do never work on a white background. It's intimidating, and instead work on a neutral gray background, because then for some reason it's more comforting. You feel like you have more freedom, because that white sometimes is so demanding that it can be intimidating to put your first stroke down. So yes, if it was up to me, I would say, or if I would recommend to use a color background, I would say do a neutral color as much as possible. Neutral gray would probably be the #1 suggestion. But if you're wanting to do like more of a warm scene, then instead of like a pure gray color, just make it a touch warmer. Something like that. And I will say though, all of the colors you choose on top of it may tend to look a bit more cooler because of that contrast. Which who knows, maybe that's what you're going for. There's a lot of tricks that the color can do to the human mind when you're looking at it.
I really do.
Okay, so the way on how not to blend colors together.
I guess since people gotta run over to YouTube, I'm gonna do that. I know this is gonna probably break y'all's necks by looking at this. Hold on. I know this is gonna probably give you guys a hard time to look at it, so I'm gonna be nice. I don't have to look at sideways, but it would probably bother me if I had to watch this sideways. So I'm gonna be good to y'all. So I'm gonna delete this real quick. Remove. I'm gonna put no. Okay. There we go. So I know that was gonna be a big problem for most of y'all. So I'll make this big and put it right there so you guys don't have to break your neck, or because you know those situations where someone's holding a camera for a certain amount of time and it's like on a very awkward, strange angle, and it kind of fucks your neck even though you're not moving your neck. Your neck feels like it's being pushed, like it feels like your neck is just getting screwed. It's kind of crazy. I remember I was watching this one YouTube video of like a fight between like two dudes on like Twitter, and the dude was holding in an angle where it was like tilted, and I don't mean like kind of tilted, I mean like drastically tilted. So you're like watching a fight from a strange tilt, and even if you're not moving your neck to watch, your neck hurts by just staring at it, even if you're not moving your neck. It's a weird like phantom thing that happens. Shit pissed me off.
So the worst thing that you can do is just add white and black to a color.
The worst
for the
thing
transition. Something like that. Now, when it comes to realism, sometimes it looks like this is the right way to go, but I promise you that the more that you throw in some more colors, it almost immediately becomes more interesting. And even in light, it doesn't have just a spectrum of black to white. It really does have a vast mixture of colors that will be influenced by whatever light source that you have lighting your object. So instead, we're going to play off of the fact that I took a picture of Frederick in the sun. Actually, I have the picture here. And don't mind, I didn't even realize there was a dead bug attached to his head at first, so I took the picture with it on, and then I realized there was a dead bug on him, but I left it anyways. Anyways, here is an example of what I think you should do. So, whenever you have that neutral base, and I'm going off of, actually, we could even work on the specific color. No, I'm gonna stick with this orange color. So instead of using white for my transition of what the color should look like in light, instead, I'm going to go to my color picker, which all you do is you go to the bottom of the tool menu, you click the swatch that you're working with, and I'm going to go a little lighter in the value. Remember, the value is up and down, and I'm going to make it slightly less saturated, because usually with sunlight or
slightly less,
or a very bright white light, or even a cool light, the color will actually get a bit washed out, and that's why your shadow colors tend to be more saturated.
Okay, wait, go back, sorry.
That will be influenced
I'm so sorry.
By whatever light source that you have lighting your object. So instead, we're going to play off of the fact that I took a picture of Frederick in the sun. Actually, I have the picture here. And don't mind, I didn't even realize there was a dead bug attached to his head at first, so I took the picture with it on. And then I realized there was a dead bug on him, but I left it anyways. Anyways,
okay, fine.
Here is an example
of
what I think you should do. So whenever you have that neutral base, and I'm going off of, actually, we could even work on the specific color. No, I'm gonna stick with this orange color. So instead of using white for my transition of what the color should look like in light, instead, I'm going to go to my color picker, which all you do is you go to the bottom of the tool menu, you click the swatch that you're working with, and I'm going to go a little lighter in the value. Remember, the value is up and down, and I'm going to make it slightly less saturated. Because usually with sunlight or a very bright white light, or even a cool light, the color will actually get a bit washed out, and that's why your shadow colors tend to be more saturated.
Okay.
So I'm also going to do what is called hue shifting. So on the orange, I'm going to also bend it up toward yellow just a smidge.
Towards yellow. Okay.
And that will be my color here. And then for areas where the light is really hitting it, I'm going to push it even further towards, closer to white, but I'm still staying pretty far away from it. Something like that. And then if you really wanted to have like a full...
Okay, so I go towards this like I usually do. I guess you go a little bit, I guess you go more further in. Peak regardless. I've done this before in front of you guys. It's very boring. That's why I don't do it most of the time in front of y'all, but it is extremely boring when I do these sessions. That's why when people ask me the question, how do you get good? I do boring shit like this. It's funny. It's like, they're like, how do you get good at drawing? I practice. How do you practice? You do the boring shit.
Full spectrum, then I would get even closer and put it over here. But I try to avoid having such a high contrast with black and white. Instead, I like my contrast to be more like saturation or hue. I think that delivers a more powerful punch.
Okay.
So,
pretty
same
similar
thing with our shadows. Instead of using black, I'm going to go to my hue or my color picker. I'm going to make it slightly darker and more saturated. And I'm going to bend it slightly toward red because I'm bending it.
Whoa, back up. What the fuck? What?
Really hitting it. I'm going to push it even further towards, closer to white, but I'm still staying pretty far away from it. Something like that.
Okay.
And then if you really wanted to have like a full spectrum, then I would get even closer and put it over here. But I try to avoid having such a high contrast with black and white. Instead, I like my contrast to be more like saturation or hue.
I'm learning
that delivers a more...
I'm learning to do realistic coloring so I can use it, so I can actually start selling my work.
A powerful punch. So, same thing with our shadows. Instead of using black, I'm going to go to my hue or my color picker. I'm going to make it slightly darker and more saturated.
Wait, when you went to the... Wait, that's where that's throwing me off. Did you?
I'm in shadows. It's a more powerful punch. So, same thing with our shadows. Instead of using black, I'm going to go to my hue or my color picker.
I see what he did. He He didn't say it, but he should accept that. This is what I hate about when I do when I go through tutorials. They do not tell you every step. They kind of like tell you the steps, but they don't tell you the nuances. Yeah, sure, you can send me.
I'm going to make it slightly darker and more saturated. I'm going to bend it slightly toward red because I'm bending it toward the cool colors.
Gotcha.
And red
is cooler than yellow. Got it. That's what he's trying to say. Hey, no. Where's the sound? Oh, bullshit. No. Oh my god. Oh, I should do a sponsorship for our fucking speakers. This is ridiculous. I should have upgraded you a long time ago. You're just a pain in the ass. I'm just... I don't want to get up.
More colorful and dynamic. The second row.
I did not want to get the fuck up. I have everything set up. I don't want to get up again.
So, same thing with our shadows. Instead of using black, I'm going to go to my
I saw you did that. Okay,
picker.
Back up.
Same thing with our shadows. Instead of using Bulpa Punch. So,
see, he took the, okay, he went to the original color.
Black,
okay, did that.
I'm going to go to my hue, or my color picker.
Okay.
I'm going to make it slightly darker.
Slightly darker.
And more saturated. I'm going to bend it slightly toward red, because I'm bending it toward the cool colors. And red's obviously not a cool color, but red turns into purple and blue. The purple and blue is the eventual color that we're trying to hit. And I'll do it one more time. Same thing, a little darker, a little more saturated. Bend it down.
What does
Alright, now if I crop these off.
Okay, just to be clear, I'm not, for those who are, actually I should do the same thing, hold on. For those who are watching, I'm going to, hold on, let me put this here. Put this here. This here. This here. Put this here. I'm gonna grab this. Hey! Okay. Grab this. Like this. Boop. Boop. There we go. Boop. Boop. Okay. This one's the original. Alright, hold on. Alright, so we have our colors. Now, just to be clear, I'm not supposed to match exactly what he's doing. I just have to follow the concept. This is where a lot of you tend to fuck up. They guys think you have to do one for one exactly with the person. No, you're supposed to get the concept what the person is trying to teach you. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get too used to copying what he's doing and not learning what he's doing. Yes, you must learn based on the copying, but you have to know when to diverge from it to a degree and not take it word for word, because a lot of people do this and then they end up being in tutorial hell and don't know why they can't get out while they want to do something original, and they don't know why they can't do it. This is part of why. For you to understand this, you need to understand that when you're doing a tutorial, the tutorial is trying to teach you a concept. Understand the concept as in know the steps, but don't follow along in the sense of like you have to do exactly what he's doing. Take the idea of what he's doing and then apply it. I was going to do that with blue, but because it might cause confusion amongst y'all, I'm doing it this way. So when you guys ask me this question, I'm telling this for your own good, not mine. I would have did this in blue, but he wants to do an orange, so that's what's happening. Now, my colors are not exactly like his, and that's fine. That's okay. The point is if the result is the same, but it doesn't have to look the same as in what he has. It just has to have the same feeling, same result, or at least the same concept, if that makes sense.
You can see how much more colorful and dynamic the second row is compared to the first. And if you're looking for more of a realistic look, it'll probably be somewhere in between these two. But I tend to work more fantastical just because I think it leaves the viewer with more interesting results. And I like treating color in a way where I'm not restricting myself just to realism. Okay, question from Colonial Mumu108 says, what book is that? That is called, let me make sure for sure. It's called The Art of the Dam Keeper, and I highly recommend it. Yes, it's Tigital says, why not fill the hot tub with mud instead of water and have rubber pigs instead of rubber ducks? Actually, we thought of that, but one of my friends, Gawky, she's another artist, and she was on one of these streams a while ago. She bought more tub toys for the hot tub, so it looks like we're going to be getting some dolphins and seals and walruses sometime soon, and we'll have Frederick get some more friends. Okay.
Why? Why?
Artextric says, can you move the color box more to the left so we can see what colors you're picking? Yeah, let me make sure. I'll look on my screen here. There we go. Somewhere like there. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, this is an example of hue shifting rather than value shifting. And in a perfect world, this is an example of saturation and value shifting, not just value shifting. So in a perfect world, you should be doing hue shifting, which affects saturation, value, and your hue. So it's color shifting. I'm jumbled up. Color shifting. So you're working on all three of those spectrums of hue, saturation, and brightness, and you're affecting all of them when you're affecting your colors. Okay, so I'm gonna hide that. Oops, did I really do all that on its own there? Oh, jeez. Let me make a copy. Alright, so for the second example, choose that neutral yellow again. And mind you, I'm not trying to focus on is my sphere looking perfect, because when you're working with color experiments, obviously you should always have proportion and stuff in mind, but the true test and what you should be really focusing on is color and light. So I'm not really caring if this isn't a perfect sphere. So I'm going to be color picking from the duck, but you can see, let me lay down the colors on the side. You can see how color picking from the photo that we took, it actually reflects what I was just talking about. You can see how if this was our neutral base, our diffuse color, if we go slightly darker and more saturated, we get, on our color picker, you can see, we get slightly darker and more saturated. And that's color picking right from a photo. And that's how I taught myself a lot with color, is taking photos of different areas where I could tell there was interesting light and color, especially with nature.
Oh my god, go back.
Choose that neutral yellow again. And mind you, I'm not trying to focus on is my sphere looking perfect, because when you're working with color experiments, obviously you should always have proportion and stuff in mind, but the true test and what you should be really focusing on is color and light. So I'm not really caring if this isn't a perfect sphere. So I'm going to be color picking from the duck, but you can see, let me lay down the colors on the side.
You actually shouldn't do that, but
you can see how color picking from the photo that we took, it actually reflects what I was just talking about. You can see how if this was our neutral base, our diffuse color, if we go slightly darker and more saturated, we get, on our color picker, you can see, we get slightly darker and more saturated. And that's color picking right from a photo. And that's how I taught myself a lot with color, is taking photos of different areas where I could tell there was interesting light and color, especially with nature. Look at like the underside of a leaf, and you'll see that subsurface scattering and how that really affects the saturation of that green. Anyways, if we go back to our neutral color again, same thing with our lighter colors. It's based on my guess, it should go higher in value and less in saturation. When I click on that yellow, you can see on our color picker that's true. And it should create this curve. Now, I try to create a mathematical, like on how that curve actually is, or like what exactly is that curve, but I wasn't able to do it fully. But I can tell you it does have sort of that curve, and rarely will anything ever be this saturated all the way in that corner. It's more of like a digital color, not so much like a realistic color. So instead, you can see how that curve is something that we should be following instead. So I'm going to write that, or I'm going to recreate that on our sphere here. I'm assuming that the light source is overhead and coming at it slightly in the front. So I'm going to lay it pretty thick in this central area, and then as it gets to that shadow area, I'm going to just let it have a slight fall off. Now I don't want it to be complete sharp like this, because when it comes to a rounded object, if the sunlight is, or whatever light source is in front of it, it'll have more of a rounded gradient from the light to the shadow. So instead of having that very hard cuts, like actually in the reference, you can see here how that shadow is very sharp, and that's called a cast shadow. There's a huge difference between a cast shadow and a rounded shadow. So a rounded shadow is when the form is round and the light source
Jolliancher says
is
interesting.
off as it goes around the object. And then the cast shadow is when there literally is an object blocking your light source, and as it falls on whatever object you have, it creates a very harsh and sharp shadow line.
Hey,
and the duck is honestly perfect. So Frederick, you are perfect and wonderful in every way.
Brightroclose says at Lavender High Lavender.
Fall off shadow on the very top of his head because it's round, but then the head casts a shadow on his body, but his body is also round, so then that turns into a rounded shadow. And we have that mix of a cast shadow right next to a rounded shadow. And the best part of all of this is that shadow color. So right there, I'm color picking right in the middle of that cast shadow, and the color right under his body are practically the same color. Now it's a little lighter because we're getting bounce light from the table. That's why it's a little lighter. But the whole idea of all this is shadows don't multiply on top of each other. So if two shadows meet, they're not going to get darker in that meeting area.
Okay.
For the most part. That's if there's one light source. If there's multiple light sources, then it becomes a little different. But with one light source, singular, there is no multiplying of shadows. And I think that was one.
Okay, so if there's a light source coming from the right, and I had a object. Okay, so say I have an object here. Say I have an object here, and the light was coming down here. The shadow that drops on this.
Jolliancher says so one light source means one shadow?
Yes, it won't multiply. So that means if I have this object, the light is coming from this direction. Even if it drops a shadow on top my orange ball here, the shadow that it's casting will be the same. It won't be like this is gonna be a light shadow and this is gonna be a super dark shadow here, because this is casting on top of this. They're gonna be both the same type of tone of shadow. That makes sense? So if I put my hand over this hand and the light's coming this way, which is the shadow that's underneath won't be darker than this shadow. Now, there will be some form of like, I think he's going to mention this. There's going to be some form of like color variation, but it's not going to darken. It's not going to be like a, it's not like I'm going to take this, say I take this, say I take this light blue, and I do it like this, and I take another light blue, and it gets darker. See how it's getting darker? And then I do it again, it gets even more darker. It's not like that. Once the blue that was initially shown like this should stay the same as this. So the shadow that goes on top of this should be the same as this. They should be exactly the same if it's coming from one light source. So if the light source is coming from one, both shadows are exactly the same in tone. That makes sense? I hope I explained that a lot better. That's what he's saying. Now, if there's two light sources now, that he said it'll be a little different, but he never said that was going to make it double darker or anything like that. But we don't know, so we might get to that part eventually.
One of the biggest lessons I learned a few years ago, and it has really helped me understand shadows and that they don't add upon each other. So I'm going to do the same thing with the sphere here. Now remember, this is a rounded shadow, or a rounded light, or a rounded object. So we're creating a fall-off shadow, not a cast shadow. And there's a huge difference. I'm just using basic brush
Just to be clear, for those who don't know what a fall-off shadow is, it's just a gradient shadow. It's just a gradient shadow. So just to be clear, if you don't know what that looks like, a fall-off shadow looks like this. If I take a blue, I know some of you might be confused with what that is. If I take a blue, and then I copy this, okay, so we can see the difference. Actually, better yet, what I can do is this. Kill two birds with one stone. So we take a blue, and I want to put a shadow on it. I take a hard brush. Oops. Okay. No, it's getting darker because it's hard to see it. So let's say it's like this. Maybe yet curve it more. It's like this. Right? That's a hard edge type shadow or a cast shadow, depending how you look at it. It could be a cast shadow from an object or so, but this one is different because it could be a cast shadow by an object, or it could be just a strange like a hard edge. But since this is rounded, I don't. It's gonna have a fall off because there's nothing actually casting it. So how that works is this is where the fall off comes in. The fall off looks like literally this. It's just a gradient. That's all it is. That's what that is. It's just a gradient. Like that. That's the difference.
the chalk brush, which looks like this. And you can download this at cgcookie.com. It's one of our free resources. It's honestly one of my favorite brushes to use. I use it for almost everything. So that's why I'm using it for the example today. Okay, let me really quick read the comments. Terminal Glow says, when you start with orange, bending the color toward red, and then purple is just as much bending it toward a cool color as bending it to yellow and then green. Doesn't that sort of defeat the purpose of saying bend it toward a cool color?
Wait, what?
Let me reread that again just to
Yeah,
make sure
what
I
the
know what
fuck?
you're saying. And purple. So typically when you're bending, I mean, I use cool color very loosely. It's generally associated with blue, purple, and green. Yes, those are the cool colors, and then red, yellow, orange are the warm colors. They're considered warm. So if I'm working with a green and I want to bend it cool, then I would go more toward blue. And then
Yeah, a lot of people get this confused. So like if you're using, and I did a video on this way back when, say you have a straight up red. Say we have a red, right? And we had a, say, a purple. If I wanted to make this red cooler, all I had to do is go to my color picker. Go to my color picker and move towards purple a little bit. The reason why you want to do this is because even though purple's right next to red here, you might be wondering why would you turn to purple when you turn to somewhere else? No, because you only have two options, because believe it or not, yellow is the brightest color. That makes it the warmest. Now, is it hotter? I wouldn't say yes. It's the brightest. So the brightest is usually the most hottest. And yellow is a very bright color than red. So red is cooler than yellow. How does that make sense? Well, it's like this. Not everyone can be the coolest person in the room. So for every room, there's at least one cool person than the rest. And when I say cool, I'm talking about more interesting. So, in that sense, if I have a yellow versus a red, we know that the red is cooler than the yellow. The yellow is the hottest person in the room. The red is the coolest person in the room between the two. Hottest, coolest. If there's two colors or two people in the room, one is cooler than the other and one is hotter than the other. Okay? So, since yellow is the brightest and the brightest is considered the hottest, therefore yellow is the hottest color. Red is a hot color, but it's not as bright as yellow, so therefore it's the coolest color between the two. Does that make sense? Please let me know you guys are understanding what I'm saying. I don't want to be just talking to myself. I hope that makes sense to y'all in the slightest. So let me repeat this again. If you have the coolest color in the room, no, the hottest color is the brightest one. The brightest color is yellow. Yellow is brighter than red. So because yellow is brighter than red, red is cool by default between the two. Now, there's three of them in here. Who is the coolest color in here? Is it yellow? Is it red? Or is it purple? Does anyone know? Who is the coolest color out of the three of these? Is it red? Okay. Bryce says purple. Anyone else? Anyone? It's okay to be wrong or right. You're not dumb if you picked the wrong thing. Okay. Stripe says purple. Okay. Anyone else? Laugh? Anyone? Because Bry picks. Let me just write this down. So there's. Oh, let's see. I have to make great color so you guys can see it. So Bry and Stripes picks purple. Anyone else? Ari, anyone? Going once. Going twice.
Miles Morales says hi, Master.
Hey, Miles. No, it really isn't. It really isn't. It really isn't. So, for those who are in here, the three colors that you're seeing, which one is the coolest color in the room? Is it yellow, is it red, or is it purple? Rye picks purple, Stripes pick purple. So, I'm gonna let one last person respond to this, whether they pick purple or not. So, is it purple, red, or yellow?
Miles Morales says blue.
Okay, so Virus picks yellow. Alright, so the answer. Actually, better yet, I'm gonna explain that in a second. So, Virus picks yellow, and Brian Stripes picks purple. So, the coolest color out of the three is purple. The reason why purple is the coolest color out of the three is because purple has more blue compared to red and yellow. Because remember, purple has red and blue. It's a half breed. And because it's a half breed, it has part blue in itself. So
Miles Morales says so I was right.
Correct. Now, out of the two, who is the hottest color for those who are coming in? Is it yellow or is it red? You already know that purple is the coolest color. Yellow.
Miles Morales says red.
Miles says red. Miles says red. Bry says yellow. We're doing a lesson. We're doing a color theory lesson. Anyone else? Anyone else? At least I need one more person at least. Let's see. Alright. Going once, going twice. Anyone's gonna respond to this? Is it red or is it yellow? We already picked purple. Purple's already less than the two. It's between these two. Okay, Cherry picks red. Cherry picks red. Alright. Alright, so Cherry and Miles picks red and Bri picks yellow. So the warmest color based on what we're learning. The warmest color, believe it or not, it is yellow. It is not red. I know red might seem like a hot color, but please hear me out. When when they use temperature, red is usually associated with fire. I get that, but like, it's the brightest color that they're talking about. So yellow is actually brighter than red. Red is actually darker than yellow. And because it's darker than yellow, it's cooler than yellow. A lot of people don't know this. No, you're not dumb. No one's dumb. I thought the same thing. We all thought the same thing. I thought the same thing. I was like, how is it not red? Red is literally associated with fire. If you combine yellow with blue, you get green. Correct. But remember, if you combine yellow with if you combine yellow and yellow and blue together, and it makes green. Even if I make a dark green, I'll put green. The green is still warmer than purple, even though it has red and blue. The reason why is that because based on its values. So purple is darker than green. Green is lighter. So even if you have the darkest green is brighter than purple natively. Does that make sense? So like if you turn down the what do you call it? Let me use an example. If we use the other way, like doing this right. Hold on, I'll make sense of it 1 second. Because I know it's gonna confuse people. I too was confused once. Okay. So if I pull these up, do this, grab this. Take a white and then make it into a color. Look at that. By default, its native value, the native value of a purple is darker than a green. So like if I take a green, hopefully this works, I don't look too crazy. If I take a green and make it pretty dark here, like natively dark right down here, right? And then I take this is a green, believe it or not. And then I'll take that same exact number here. I'm not going to move it. I'm going to move it to the purple. I'm just going to shift it to the purple. And I put it next to it. They may look alike, but the purple is darker than the green. Look, if you look closely, I don't know if I can zoom in for you guys. Hold on. Look closely at this. You can see that this one is natively darker than this green. Remember, I never changed the number of saturation or light. I just shifted the hue. When I say the word hue, I'm talking about the literal color. When I say saturation, that means how intense it is. When I say value, that means how bright and how dark it is. Okay? A lot of you get this confused. So like value is up and down, light, darkness. So saturation is desaturation and saturated. it's like Battleship if you think of it this way. So the because of its I never changed the saturation, and I didn't change the initial value at all. I just changed the literal color. And if you look closely, the darkest one is this one. That's how I know that purple is darker than green, because it has its value natively, and even saturation, but natively its value is darker by default. So like let's use a different example so I don't confuse y'all. See, like, okay, remember these are the same number of value and saturation. I didn't change these things. I just changed the colors. That's it. So the numbers are the same. The color is just different. I went to the native color, and it proved that the purple is darker than the green. And because it's darker, that means it's cooler. Anything darker means cooler. Anything lighter means warmer or brighter. Okay? You have a question? Okay, what's your question? You have a question? You can raise your hand. It's okay. Okay. Um. Sure, you can go to the restroom. Make sure you have your hall pass. Um. So let's use a dark blue. If I use the darkest blue, this is a dark blue, almost near black. And then I'm going to shift down to the deepest red. Oop, you guys can't see it, so my bad. Sorry. This is the deepest red I can give you right now. Oh, there we go. Right? I'm going to switch to their values. As you can see, the darkest one here is the blue. You can see slightly lightness in this one. I'm not talking about here. I'm talking about literally in this middle part. It's slightly lighter. It's hard to see because you guys are watching from the phone, but you can see that this one's lighter than this one. That makes it a little bit difficult, but you know. So like so even to prove this, your lightest blue is your darkest blue compared to our red. So like if I took a light blue, see, like this is a pretty light blue. If I take a light blue, oops. Okay, good. Okay, so our light blue, welcome back. Well, our light blue is here, and then I'm going to switch to the, go back to the, I'm going to put this red here. I'm going to turn on the values. As you can see, the red is brighter than the blue. It's hard to see. I know it's kind of hard, but when you do like color matching, it makes sense. Like, yeah, this is a great way to train your eye under the idea of doing value scaling. So there's a method that we do, or I do mainly, is we look at a color, right? Example. So what's happening here is I take a, say I take a, no, better yet, let's just even turn this on just to make it easier. So I'm gonna take this green and make it pretty ambiguous. So it's hard to see. This, and I have to guess how bright and how dark this is. So how we do this is we look at it and we start off, we just randomly just go like this and we move around like this, and then we are here. So we know this is, then we know that, maybe it's too zoomed in, that's the problem. Hold on, there we go, maybe that's easier. Okay. So we know that, wow, it's kind of weird on TikTok, the colors are different. Anyway, we know that this color is not the same as this. So we need to match that. So what we're going to do, we're going to do everything in our power to try matching it. Now, we're not supposed to go back to the green, because we already knew it was green. The point is not trying to get the green. The point is to match the tone of, or the tint of this value, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to, it's more of a trial and error thing. Like this. Now you can see there's a little bit more darkness in this compared to this, so what we need to do is tone it back a little bit, desaturate a little bit, and then see again. Oops. What's the problem? Okay, right here. Like that. Sorry, that's the same. Okay. And oops. Okay, I made a mistake. Here we go. Not yet, because right now we're trying to do the values, and we'll go back to what he was teaching us in a second, because I don't want to go too far from that. But you can see that this is the brightest out of the four, so that means there's too much light in this color. So what we need to do is pull it back a little bit. And we don't need to change colors. We don't need to change hues. We just need to, this is a value saturation thing. So we just have to worry about our values is up and down, and our saturation is sideways. Always remember that. When you're desaturating, you're going left. When you're saturating, you're going right. When you're going bright, you're going up, and if you're going dark, you're going down. Okay? Now, given that our color is bright, we're too far up in brightness, so we need to bring it down a little bit. Okay? So we're going to color over this again. Okay, not bad. It still has a bit of tint in there of a little tinted. So we're gonna pull it down by slightly more. Color over it again. Okay, it looks pretty close. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna color next to our color. And as you can see right there, to prove that our color is not close enough, there's this barrier right here. Not barrier, but this you can see this. Oop, you can see this barrier between them that's separating them. The point of this is for them to match and be one. Okay, they're not supposed to have this barrier right here. You can probably see it. Maybe if I zoom in more, you guys can see it. You see this barrier right here? You don't want this. That means you're not close enough. You're close, but you're not close enough. So what we're going to do, we're going to probably pull it in a little bit more in the darkness area. And look at that. We're still having that barrier, so that means it's too dark. So we need to pull it up a little bit more. Still a little bit too bright, so maybe it's a saturation problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to desaturate. Still not good enough. Saturate, go down. Still not good enough. So what we need to do is probably, because it's somewhere in the middle here. Let's do this first. You see that? It's brighter than this, though. We need to. Let's see. Oh, that's what it's called, a memo? Okay. Still not good enough. Maybe we go a little more darker. Nope. Oh, I'll probably have to ask you guys in a bit. So pay attention. Because I'm trying to get this right. Oh, we're pretty close. Okay. Now we need to probably desaturate a little bit more. I don't think so, but we'll see. Nope, still not good enough. And this is what color matching does. It teaches you to look at the value objectively as best as you can. It takes some trial and error, but it is a great exercise to learn. I've always been a art teacher. Almost there. I feel it. Too dark. Okay. Yeah. Maybe it's a hue thing. So let me see if it's a hue. Maybe it's a hue. Okay. It's too dark, too light. It's like somewhere here. Almost. Because we don't want to see this. We need to match this in the sense of it has to be the same color. Because if it doesn't become the same color, then that's a problem. There we go. Oh, there we go. Found it. Oh, my dumbass. I forgot. I was using my crayon brush, and I forgot when you overlap it. My dumbass. I was doing it right. It was just that I was using the wrong brush. So the issue with this brush that I have sometimes with it doubles over the, you can see that it doubles over and adds more. So every time I did it, it was wrong because it kept on doubling up. So that's why it's always causing a barrier. So always be careful on what brush you use. I'm sorry about that. That was my fault. That's why I was wondering why I was not getting it. Alright, so let's do this again, but let's do it right. So I'm going to take this again, make this a big color. Say like here, right? With this greenish, this aqua green like color. Then I'm going to have to match this aqua green like color with this red. Now, you must be wondering, can I just switch to the color and then just put in like this? No, it's not going to work. That is not going to work. It's not going to work because it's not meshing well with each other. So what we need to do is match that. So as you can see, I use this. I hope this doesn't double up either. Hold on. I hope I didn't program this to be doubled up. Just to make sure. Yeah, this one does double up too. So, okay. Okay, that's good. So, you see how this is a border? We don't want that. So, we want to see if it's, no, it has to mesh in like a puzzle piece. So I'm gonna, I would say a little bit more brightness. So I'm gonna push in a little bit more. Nope, a little bit more darkness here. Okay, okay. Very close. Getting closer. Nope, too far, too cold, cold. It's like a Marco Polo type thing, just for those who are wondering. Ooh, very close. Look at that. You see the border almost like became one. So close, close. I think it needs a little more saturation though. Close, close. A little bit more brightness. Nope. I think a little more darkness. My bad. almost. Now, I would say this is too dark, so I'm going to make it desaturated slightly. Almost. More desaturated again. Ooh. Again. Okay, too dark. Too dark. Ah, look at that! Look at that! Oh, shit, you guys can't see it. My bad. Fuck, I don't say anything. Like, okay. See how that almost meshed in? There you go. Wait, no, not yet. Almost. Just almost. No, not yet. Not yet. Maybe a little more saturation. Nope, we're going away from it. And we'll be saturation. Just slightly more. There you go. Wait, nope. Back one. No, we was on it. No. There we go. There's no border now. And guess what? These are two different colors. It's the value we're matching, not the colors. Okay? That's the point of this. This is how you learn your values. It's matching the contrast of each other. So the point of the contrast, because remember, contrast is to show division. That's the point, right? But that's the point of contrast. But the point of what you're supposed to do is make them one. You need to find how they're the same, even if they're different. So even if it's like a purple and a yellow, you can find a commonality between them. Okay? So that's the point of the value scale, the value matching. It's supposed to mesh in as one. Okay? So for those who are having a hard time, you should learn to do this. It's going to help you tremendously in the future if you're trying to understand color. Okay? I hope that answers some questions. So what I said earlier makes sense. And I'm pretty sure Bro here is going to mention that eventually. I'm hoping, because I'm still learning from this myself. So I'm hoping that he mentions that, because that's going to confuse the fuck out of a lot of people. Like, people think red is the brightest color, which it is not. It just seems to be. But the brightest color is actually yellow. I think the second brightest color is probably yellowish orange, or like reddish orange, depending who you're asking. And then it's red comes third place.
Then if I want to bend it warm, I go more toward yellow. I would say blue and yellow are like the polar opposites in terms of when people think of warm versus when people think of cool. And that's not to say that they're opposites on the color wheel, because in the modern color wheel, red and cyan are opposites, not blue and yellow. Well, actually, no, blue and yellow are, but usually people think of blue and what is the orange as being its complement, when really it's actually yellow.
Correct.
So those two are polar opposites. So any color that you choose, if you want to get more warm, bend it toward yellow. If you want to get more cool, bend it toward blue. James Rio says, Tim, do you include temperature in your HSV when considering color decision? I often just hear people reference HSV and not temperature.
HSV is.
Do you find it not as important as other properties of light and color? No, I do find it important. Actually, I did a whole color course last year, and if you're interested, like if color really interests you and you want to learn more about it, one of the links below has a link to the color course that I did, and it's about a 20-part tutorial course. And I really go into everything that I learned about color. And one of them was temperature. And I do think temperature is important, because not so much with what I'm doing today with the demo, but I will say if you want an overall mood in your piece, temperature is very important. If you want a very frigid looking winter scene, having mostly cool colors and then like an isolated hint of like orange or red from like a candlelight from like a log cabin, that mood is really dependent on the temperature of the piece. And I feel like sometimes with color, people throw around a lot of definitions and words around, but when it comes down to it, I think temperature really affects the mood of your piece, whereas your HSV will affect the value, the contrast, the bounce lighting, like things that are more technical, I would say, whereas temperature is more, what's that word? It affects the way you see and feel about the piece. So I do think it is important. I just feel like I always teach HSB because I really do believe, or I call it HSB, just because of how much I believe in understanding color to really allow yourself the freedom to work with color.
Oh, I just realized what the fuck he meant. He means hue, saturation, value. I'm so stupid. I didn't even realize that.
All right, one
God,
more
I'm
question.
stupid.
J South 75 says, off topic, any suggestions on books or online classes on portrait drawing? Also, what's important to learn, such as value, line drawing, etc.? Everything that is fundamental is important to learn. And the fundamentals are basically value, lighting, color, some would say proportion, and like perspective. But I think when it comes down to it, if you can really understand value, form, color, and light, I think those four are like the pinnacle of your foundations. So any tutorial or anything that you can teach yourself to really strengthen those would help. And then in terms of online classes, I've taken a
Please note, he's talking about color fundamentals.
CGMA one and I've taken a schoolism one. They were both good. I think it all depends on your personality
Not the fundamentals that I teach. He's talking about color theory fundamentals.
type and how well you do working with an instructor and the way that they teach your class. I felt like I had a really good connection with my teachers, and that's why I feel like they really helped. But I think it's important to know if you're going to sign up for an online class, you're going to be expected to do a lot of work. So if you don't have the time available, then I would not sign up for it. I would allow yourself a good 2-month chunk to really allow yourself the full time necessary to complete the homework assignments if you're taking a longer workshop. All right, back to the thing we're working on here. I'm going to also place underneath of him, I'm going to grab orange from the bill of the duck. I'm going to place it under him. So now when you introduce a new color like this, especially if we're having the sphere resting on this color is going to be affecting our subject matter. Because when you're working with light, you also have to work with the way that light bounces. So in this example, light is going to hit that orange, and whenever it hits a surface, it bounces around in like every direction. But usually it has a stronger direction in the bounce that it was hitting on. So it's going to bounce and then hit on the underside of this sphere. So on the underside of the sphere, I could even make a mask layer here. It would be more orange. Now the one thing to know when you're working with bounce lighting is the bounce light will never be as strong as the original light source itself. So the orange that I place on the sphere will not be as strong as the orange on the floor that it's being bounced off of.
Okay.
And the other thing is when we introduce that object, we also need to be aware of, cancel. We also have to be aware of the shadow that it's casting. So in this case, it would be it would not be black, it would be a darker version of that orange color. Something like that. I'm gonna actually turn touch off. It's kind of messing with my hand, like keeps touching it and it keeps affecting settings that I don't want it to edit. So I'm gonna turn that off. And then the final thing that we would do is we'd add a highlight. Now, sometimes I like to add a pre-highlight depending on what material I'm working with. So I usually throw down a bit of a lighter color, and then I blend it in. And it's like prepping for that highlight. And then I'm going to grab pure white, but I'm not going to use, actually, no, I'm going to grab that yellow that we were working with. I'm going to bend it really close to white, but like I said, no black and white. That's the one rule I try to follow, and it really does seem to help my end results with the works that I do. Something like that. Now, the one thing that I also learned is usually when the light and the shadow meet, it becomes a bit more saturated on that edge. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to create an overlay layer. Grab that yellow. No, I'm going to grab that darker orange. That's too much. Yeah, I like do it softer. Then depending if our light source was very strong, like in a yellow, I could make this super vibrant like this, and then have some of that color kind of bleed off of the object, depending on how you want the end result to look. But I tend not to rely on overlay and multiply as much as I used to. So instead, I'm just going to do a light pass of this overlay, just to give it more of a feel of that light hitting this object. Something like that. And I may go in and like clean it up. Oops, the new layer. Just to give it more of that shape of the sphere that we're trying to create. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is the bounce lighting from the gray. If our surrounding environment is more of a neutral gray, I'm going to go ahead, select it. Oh, you know what? First, no, I'm going to have some of that darker red on the bottom of the sphere on this side. Like that. And then I'm going to pull the gray. Because I love having the environment be reflected on the actual sphere itself. Oh, and while I'm blending this, I don't know if any of you guys are big Final Fantasy fans, but I was pretty let down by the news that it's being delayed 2 more months. I'm kind of looking forward to that game, and that news kind of hit me off guard. I was so happy that it was coming out actually on my birthday weekend, and I set the weekend off to play that game, and I gotta wait 2 more months. Hopefully it's with good purpose though. Alright, so this is our sphere, and essentially if I wanted to push it any further, I'd probably clean up the rendering, but I think you guys get the point, and we're going to move on to painting Frederick. And normally, I would recommend painting it from life rather than having the photo reference, but I think just because of the time constraint that we have, I'm going to use the photo and be color picking from it. But one of the painting teachers that I had told me that whenever you're drawing a realistic study, such as a bowl of fruit or something along those lines, try to choose your own colors without color picking directly from the source. And this is working digitally. Obviously, traditionally, you can't do it as easily, but when it comes digitally, it's better to color pick from your own palette that you create and then see how close you were to recognizing the colors on the objects that you're painting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put all these layers in a folder. Move this out of the way, and we're going to go ahead and paint Frederick. Oh, you know what? While I am doing that, if you guys want to add in your votes again for the Pokemon demo, where should I put the duck? So yeah, if you guys have any other votes, I will tally them up now as I create the base for Frederick. And I guess I'll answer a few questions while we're doing this. SI333X says, is CG Cookie going to expand on the traditional course, such as teaching how to use new mediums? Hopefully, yeah, that's the goal. So we start out with doing pencils and mechanical pencils, and we're hoping to do more than just that. Arc Zero says, "Is there no bounce light on the right side of the shadow?" There was. It was super subtle though. If that was one thing I probably could have amped up more, it was the bounce light in the shadow, because that's definitely a common misconception, is that there aren't bounce lights in shadow areas. But if we look at our duck photo here, let's see if we can find a good. Yeah, actually, this area would be considered, this area would be considered our shadow. And as you can see, it's lighter yellow down here than it is here or even here. And that's directly influenced by the bounce light that's happening on the table. So even though our light source is coming from behind the duck, there's still bounce light being bounced back toward the duck, because the way that a light hits an object, it bounces in every direction. It's not just a singular arrow light. So that's why you see the bounce light underneath of the duck. And then this was another challenging thing that I didn't even believe. I was like so passionate that this artist was wrong. And it's a color artist that I really respect, and she's been on the stream a few times. Her name is Mel Herring, and she used to go by the name Purple Kekleon, but now it's Glitch Puppet. And she did a tutorial on how the area where the light and the shadow meet is actually the darkest. And I remember thinking, no, that's not right, because when the light source hits an object, it gradients around, and the darkest part would be more on the bottom. And it was really interesting, because then I started to test this theory, because I feel like a little art scientist, and she was right. And it's not in the way that you may think. It's all because of bounce lighting. So even on this duck here, you can see how the lightest value is here, the darkest value is here, and then because of that bounce light, it is actually lighter. If I actually separate these two, let's pull them aside actually. You can see how it's very subtle. I don't know how well you guys will be able to see on the color picker, but you see that jump? And that's because that bounce light is actually making it slightly lighter underneath of the duck. And that's all because of bounce lighting. Okay, I'm gonna get Frederick out of the way here. Let's see here. It looks like most of you guys voted. I'm gonna take on some of these new ones here. Polita. Hey, you guys want to see Polita? Golem and Gengar. Oh, we got another Polita. Okay. And then we got another Agumon. Alright, so if you guys want to keep voting while I start the duck, I'll definitely make sure to keep looking up and down and getting all of those. John Miller says, does subsurface scattering of Frederick's material affect it any? Yes. So, I forgot to show you guys, I took photos. I did a photo shoot with Frederick, private of course. And you can see how, and if you guys don't know what subsurface scattering is, essentially it's when a light source hits an object, such as Frederick, and the light bounces inside of the actual object, and you can see the way that the light bounces through it, and it actually makes the object's color more saturated. The best example that we have is when, on just ourselves, is when you hold your hand up to a flashlight, and you can see through your fingers how it becomes very saturated and pink looking, and that's because the light is passing through our skin, and it's exposing all those blood vessels that we have, and that red is becoming illuminated, and that's why it looks so saturated and bright. So that is what subsurface scattering is. And with Frederick, the duck, you can see how near his neck, right here, that's subsurface scattering, because the light source is coming through the window into Frederick's body, and it passes through, and it's actually bouncing on its neck. And since it's so thin there, that's why you see it so strong. where like when you hold the flashlight up to your hand, you can't really see the light passing through the hand part. But when you do it through your fingers, that's when you can really see it because it's thinner. So the thinner the material is, or the more opaque it is, the easier it is for the light to travel through. So with direct sunlight, you can definitely see the difference on the way that the color is affected when you're working with a direct sun influence versus an indirect, which in this case, it's bounce lighting that's giving all of Frederick his color right now. And the other thing that I thought was very important for you guys to see is that even in the shadow, the beak is reflecting the light coming from the window. So sometimes we think that there will be no light, and even I've mistakenly said that you can't get highlights in shadows. And it's kind of true, but a highlight, it's a true highlight, is from the light source directly. So that's why this would not be considered a highlight on the beak. Instead, it's passing through the window and it's landing on the beak mainly because the beak's so reflective that it's reflecting the window, but it's not reflecting the sun directly. Because if it was reflecting the sun directly, that would be a true highlight. Now, if I'm going really fast, I'm trying to get as much information out there for you guys to hopefully latch onto. And I think there's so much to learn with color and light, so that's why I just kind of ramble when I talk about it. So the main thing that I really wanted to focus on when we get into the actual duck drawing is the way that the light falls on the object and how that really affects the color of the duck. You can see how in our indirect lighting reference, it's very neutral looking. There isn't a high contrast between the areas that are more lit and the areas that are more in shadow. So if we look at our color picker, you can see how the difference isn't a whole lot. But then if we go to our direct sunlight areas, you can see how we have it's all the way up actually on our value scale versus a shadow, how it's actually all the way on the saturation side, which we're definitely not getting on the shadow in the indirect lighting duck. Over here, it's all the way up, actually almost entirely, except for the transition. You can see that transition right there. It's that curve that I was talking about.
Curve there.
See how that works?
Okay.
Something like that. Now the third one was more or less just to show that this is a rounded shadow, this is a cast shadow. But I came to find out that the original photo that I took actually does a good job of showing a cast shadow next to a rounded shadow. Terminal Glow says, I was the first one to vote Ponyta. I wasn't trying to vote again. You know what? I appreciate your honesty. Thank you.
Bonita.
And Mezzogenio says, voting for Snorlax. Ding. Okay, so when working on our duck here, I'm going to quickly do a rough sketch of our duck.
Okay.
I want to thank Frederick for being such a
Just to be clear, once he starts coloring the duck, we'll stop there and go play Fate Trigger.
good sport today. Now, like I said earlier, when it comes to
Just to be clear, today is our last day to play Fate Trigger, I believe. I think today's the last and final day, so have fun with that.
color test, I'm not really looking to make sure that my proportions are 100% accurate. I think it's more important to have the goal be, are my color theories being tested? Am I challenging myself and trying to understand color better? There's a happy little Bill mouth. And the other thing that I try to do when I'm doing these initial sketches is working fast. I have a bad habit of going slower than I should be. And as a concept artist, especially in the industry, you have to work on your speed and really getting yourself at a point where you can pump out work pretty fast.
Pinterest.
Alright, so I think, let me double check, and I'm going to flip it. I made his booty a little bigger than it actually is.
I swear to God, if I think I like somehow, I swear I'm gonna be so pissed. Hold on. I didn't think of it till like right now. Tags, activity.
Alright, so that's going to be my base. Let's go ahead and start coloring them. So I'm making a new layer. I'm putting it underneath of that line art layer just so I can see the general shape that I'm trying to create. And when I'm really working fast, like when I did the demo, the duck, or the poster for this live stream, I did it really, really fast. And I think when I'm trying to break it down for you guys, I want to work just a touch slower so that it's not just lost in translation. So now, usually when I'm working on a subject matter like this, actually, I'm just going to fill the entire thing in. I like to have a base color to kind of represent my diffuse color of whatever object I'm working on. And you know what, that was actually a bit lighter than what I wanted. Probably something like this, because I like working from dark to light. So this is our diffuse color of the duck. If there's any area where I'm laying down color and that base color kind of peeks through, that's okay. I actually like having a base color that can represent the object, and if in anywhere, even in the eye or the beak, if that color shows through, it's okay because it's in harmony with the rest of the duck because it's all using that same base color. So then from here, let's go ahead and start painting on our light here. Now the other thing that I'm going to do that I have to constantly remind myself to do nowadays is like squint while you're painting. You really want to get the values and the colors without focusing on the details. So if you see me doing weird faces, it's not because I'm disgusted at what I'm working on. It's because I'm really trying to see the colors that are in the duck without focusing on the details of the duck. Of Frederick, I should be calling him by his name. Now in the shadow area, I'm going to be color picking, but you'll notice how the shadow colors are actually different in certain areas. And the coolest one is the area right under his beak is actually a bit more red. And that's because of the bounce light. It's bouncing on the wood, bouncing on his beak, and then bouncing back down to his belly. And that's why it appears a bit more orangish rather than being more of a yellow. So we're going to have that soft gradient going up the side of him. And as we get into the tail feather, I'm going to first lay on that lighter pass, and then we're going to go in and lay down the shadow. And look how different that shadow color is than his belly color. That's because the bounce light is bouncing on the back of Frederick's head and then bouncing back onto the tail feather. Gray Love says, so are you shaking in fear at the stark white looking background? Yes, that's why I had to lay down a base color first. SI333X says, how does flipping the image help you? This is more of a proportion thing than anything. Usually you can see if something looks off, because sometimes when you're looking at something in the same perspective, you miss some of the subtleties that might need to be moved around. And that's why you see artists constantly flip their image so that they can get a better picture of what might be slightly off in proportion. Okay, here's a little wing down here. Then you can see as the curvature of the duck gets further away from being like a direct point of access for the sun to hit, it becomes slightly more saturated, but it doesn't become a complete shadow until we get like underneath of the wing. think I actually may do the body and the head on a different layer. Making a new layer. Let's go ahead and do the head. So the first thing I notice is
let me
we
get
can
this
make.
straight.
Actually, it's much darker on the other side of the head. You can definitely see the contrast that's going to go from the head onto the body. And that's why this is a point of interest for the viewer. The other thing that you should see is the top of the head color and the body color are going to be the same. There's no difference between the top of the head lightness between the top of the body lightness.
There's no difference. So there's no difference from here to here. Okay.
Like I said, I'm trying not to focus on the values too much, or on the details. I'm trying to focus on the values. That's what I should have said. Because remember, we're trying to do a rounded shadow on the head, unlike the cast shadow that's on the side of, or on this part of the body. Now he also has a little sliver of the other wing poking out on the other side. I'm going to make sure I include that. And it really gives more emphasis on the fact that the head is casting a straight shadow forward, and you can actually see the other side of the duck. All right, so now for his bill, I'm going to start with this darker color. And this is more of a personal preference to paint on the light from a darker value. I don't know why, I just might find it more comforting to work darker to light, but I've seen other artists work light to dark even, and it works just as well for them. So don't feel like this is the process you have to follow, it's just one that I feel most comfortable with. I'm going to grab that value on top of the beak.
Oh shit! Whoa! What the fuck? Okay, wait, back up.
I don't know why, I just might find it more comforting to work darker to light, but I've seen other artists work light to dark even, and it works just as well for them. So don't feel like this is the process you have to follow, it's just one that I feel most comfortable with. I'm going to grab that value on top of the beak.
Wow. The color really like contrasts, but it doesn't feel nasty.
And there's actually, if you can see in the reference of the duck, he has like a sliver of yellow right there. So the sun was just able to hit the slope of where the head and the beak meet. Now, the other thing that's really cool is
this is what I'm trying
inside
to
of the actual mouth of Frederick, the light is bouncing so much through the head, and it bounces on the how thin it is on the other side of his mouth, that it actually appears more almost red-ish looking. If I color pick and throw it down, let me make sure I'm on the right layer, you can see how more vibrant that looks. Something like that. Okay, now I think I'm going to start throwing down
wait,
our wood value,
wait.
beak meat.
I want to see something. As soon as you get to the mouth part.
Now, the other thing that's really cool is things so much out of his mouth that it actually appears more almost red-ish looking. So if I color pick and throw it down, almost red-ish looking. So if I color pick and throw it down, let me make sure I'm on the right layer. You can see throw it down. almost red-ish looking.
It's
If I
so
color
short.
Artextric throw it
Why?
down, let me make sure I'm on the right layer. You can see how more vibrant that looks. Something like that. Okay, now I think I'm going to start throwing down our wood value, because I might start playing with some bounce lighting here. Then I'm erasing all of the black and this tan color where the duck is, because I want that initial color that we laid down to bleed through. Okay, so now from here, let me double check my values. Okay, so yeah, on the inside of our beak, oh, and I'm going to turn off that line art layer. We're at the
I'm jealous. This looks nice.
point where we don't need the line art anymore. And I always talk about how your line art should act as like a guide, but then you should get to a point in your piece where you don't need it anymore. The values read very strong, where the line art almost becomes more of a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to work on, he has some bounce lighting passing back up on his beak, and it's a pretty strong bounce light actually, and it's because that beak is so reflective. That's why the reflectiveness on the underside of his beak is more so than the underside of his belly, because that light is bouncing and hitting more of a reflective surface rather than one that's more matte.
Okay. Interesting.
Then he has some of that orange bouncing back onto his belly from that
Into his
beak.
neck. Okay.
And the curve of the shadow that I place here really will alter the way that the duck is viewed in its form. So I want to make sure that that curve feels right.
Okay.
And I guess we could do a little bit of smoothing here, now that our values are in place.
Wow. Look at that.
You can see how I didn't even add on the eyes yet. It's such a detail oriented
Yeah, it looks
section
really
that
nice.
I don't want to
I
focus
gotta
on.
rewatch this video again. Holy shit.
Now that we're getting more into,
If I can get my work to look like
I
that,
would say, a final pass of the duck, of Frederick,
I'm gonna rewatch this
and go
video
in and
again
add those eyes.
and study this harder because, like, it's amazing. I don't even have to rely on
Oh, you know what?
the
I'm
sketch
going to do
for
the
a
eyes
while.
on a new layer as an example to show, like, if my proportions are slightly off,
Really good.
sometimes I tend to make eyes more wide set than they need to be. This is on its own layer, I can go ahead and just adjust it.
Thank you for the hearts.
Flip it. Or we could even like lasso it and turn it slightly. Like that.
Okay.
Now he has like one of those fake reflections in his eye. I'm gonna draw that in.
Yeah, this looks like a concept artwork, but it looks good. It looks like it looks intentional to look
And
like this.
there's one thing missing about the duck. I want you guys to tell me if you can spot what I need to do to kind of call this duck done.
I just realized like the duck looked like something I seen in Spider Verse. It looks like a Spider Verse prop somewhere.
And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna see if there's any questions here. And
What did he need to do? Oh, he didn't put no shadows on the bottom. He's supposed to put some shadows at the bottom. He didn't put the shadows at the bottom of the duck. He needs some. He put bounce light at the bottom, but he didn't put no shadows under the duck. I'm assuming that's the problem.
Animal Wizard says, if the color of the light is blue, would the yellow duck become greenish? Yes. So if there was a blue light, it would mix with the yellow duck and it would become more green. James Frio says, is Frederick our new god? Is this a tribute? I'm not sure if he's a god. I would say he
is a friend.
I mean, I would praise him, but
I will praise
that would
him.
be quackers.
That'd be quackers.
Sorry, my dad humor comes out from time to time.
I will
He's still like
praise
dripping
him.
water from the hot tub. I was like, what just dripped on me? Terminal Glow says, what made you choose the name Frederick? It's perfect. I'm just curious. I tend to name things on the spot. So I bought him, I threw him in the tub, and then someone asked me what his name was, and for whatever reason, Frederick. That was the name that came to mind. Just like the hot tub, his name is Harold Tubman.
Harold.
Grail Love says,
names.
what if we made the eyes a dark blue
Such
instead
old
of
man
black?
names.
It's actually, I don't know if you can see it, it's more of a dark gray. If I choose my color picker, I mean the dark brown.
I don't remember
So
no
you can
more.
see here,
I
it's
don't
not
know.
actually pure black.
I can't hear you
can
guys
see,
in my
like,
ear right
even
now.
though it looks to be pure black, it's not. And that's the whole idea of you can trick the viewer into thinking it's pure white or pure black, but you're not using pure white or pure black. Yes, it Sigil says, I just got back from giving blood, and I was very tempted to take pictures of the blood as reference, but people looked at me weirdly, so I chickened out. Sigil, no! It's okay to be weird. I'm the weirdest person I know. Man, next time, take pictures. Spyro1223 says, highlights on the beak and the cast shadow. Yes.
Yeah, the
from
cast
this
shadow.
You two are the first ones to get it. So I'm gonna quickly add in.
I got the shadow part right. I didn't really see a. Oh, I didn't see the highlight. Jesus, I didn't even pay attention
and we'll
to that.
move on to whatever Pokemon we vote on. And you can see as I lay on these highlights, it like instantly gives the material a whole new material, really, the whole new look, and gives more information to the viewer on what is this material made out of. So before the highlight, it could have been the same material that the duck was made of, but now that we have a highlight on it, all of a sudden the viewer can look at it and be thinking, oh, okay, so it's not the same material that the duck is made out of. Otherwise, there'd be a highlight on the top of the duck, on the tail fin, and maybe even on the body or top of the his wing. So instead, now the viewer knows this bill material is slightly different than the body material. That's very important. Whenever you can add in these little tips and nuances to your materials to let it read better, do it. You want to really give as much information to your viewer as possible while staying true to whatever the material is. And now the cast shadow, this one is really interesting, and I'll talk about why it is in a second. There we go. So I know it might be kind of hard to see, but the cast shadow under him, directly under him, is more brown. The cast shadow that is not directly over him or under him is more purple. It's more blue. Okay. And I'm sure a few of you can already guess it, but I'll be really impressed if you guys can say in the comments why that is before I start explaining it. I'm guessing the reason why it'll be brown on one side and more, I think, blue is because of the mixing of his colors too into the shadow. Right? So, like, I'm assuming that's what that is. So, if this is yellow,
I take the yellow, right, and then I change it down, it's gonna be more green. And I don't know what color this is. So the color here, well, why would it be brown here but blue here? Wait, what the fuck? Why would it be brown there but blue on the other side? Is it bounce light? Is it a light? Is there a light source that's coming? No, I don't think so. So it must be something I'm not seeing.
And let's let's see here. Grail Love says you need to save your document and back up the file twice. Yes, that's very important. But I'm reading all of these jokes now. James Rio says, Tim, what did the duck say to the bartender when his tab was due? Put it on my bill. I've heard that one once or twice. Tijel says, is there some chemistry between Frederick and Cal? I feel a romance coming up.
There's always that one person. There's always that one person. Fucking A. You can never escape these people. They always have to make everything into a, not even a sexual thing. It's just always a romance amongst two people. It's usually two dudes. It's never like two people. Like, oh my god. There's always that one person. It's the weirdest fucking thing. It could be the most. Okay, so there's a person that's in his chat who asked him something about Frederick and the other inanimate object that he named. One's name's Frederick, the other one was Henry or Harold or some shit. And someone said something across the lines of, is there a romance between Harold and Frederick? I'm like, bro, why do you guys always have to make romanticize every fucking thing? Why can't it just be an object with a name? It can never just be. You guys got a headcanon, a fucking what do you call it? It's wild to me every time. It's the craziest. This is why y'all need to stay on fucking Tumblr. I swear to God, your fan fictions got you live in reality all goddamn day. It's crazy to me. Like, why? Every time, there's always that one person. You can make an inanimate object like a name and become like a staple of your channel. If you have another inanimate object with a similar name or like with a name, it doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl name. There's that one person that has to romanticize between the two objects because they just have to. They can't help themselves. The shit's stupid.
Maybe Cal will have a new friend to play with.
It's crazy to me. It just can't just be a thing. It has to be something
Hold on,
more.
if you guys are telling me it's buffering, let me double check.
Fucking fly. Why do you flies do this? Why the fuck do you fly near me? You can fly everywhere else but near me. That's the weirdest part.
Frederick broke Twitch. Okay, hopefully that helped. If not, let me know. If anything, try refreshing. Sometimes that, at least for me,
okay,
that's usually the
point,
problem.
bro. Get to the point. I can't. I need to go play game. I can't do this. Get to the point.
Okay. I'm gonna keep going. If it keeps area under the duck is sorry, but I want to make sure that we can get this done in time. So the area under the duck is actually more brown because the duck is casting its own light. It's the bounce light from the duck. The yellow from the duck
I was right.
is bouncing down and passing onto the wood, and that's what's making it more brown.
Okay, but what makes it more blue? I get that part. I actually understand that one. I got that one. But why does it turn blue on the other side? That don't make no sense. Unless it like gets weaker and it just gets bluer? But I don't think that makes sense.
And then the area that's not directly under the duck, it's actually being more purple or more blue from the sky because I took this photo outside.
Oh, fuck.
So,
damn, dumb. Okay, well then again, how can I tell this from the sky? There's a black thing behind him, so you kind of think to yourself, oh, it's probably in a room. Okay, then I'm not. I don't feel too stupid. That was left out information, unless he did mention that I was not paying attention. But like, if he put blue in the background, then it would have made sense. But he put black, so I'm like, fuck. That's why I was kind of confused. Where the hell is that blue coming from? Unless it's like a blue light source, but he didn't mention no blue. Because if there was a blue light source, there will be more blue into the shadow, bouncing inside the shadow, and also onto the beak and the face and all that shit. So I know for a fact that was not the case. So he just misled. I don't say misled, but or I was not paying attention. So
Oh, it
it's
looks
either
like a few of
or.
you guys are actually getting it right.
I was right then.
Hideous underscore says, I was away for a long time, and can I ask if your traditional course is already finished and released? It is. You can actually watch the entire course on CG Cookie right now. So yes, James Frio, that is exactly it. It's all about the area around the object and how it's being influenced by the light source.
Okay.
So in this case, we're going to work with more of a brown shadow under the duck.
Wait, how
And
did
then on
you?
the other side,
Wait, go back. How did you make that? Wait, whoa, fuck you. What the hell?
brown. So in this case, we're going to work with more of a brown shadow under the duck. And then on the other side, it's more blue. And they'll meet each other. There's going to be like a slight gradient right there.
Wow, that was fucking
Now,
simple.
if you wanted to keep going and start detailing, you definitely can. But in this case, I'm going to go forward and move forth with, it looks like Psyduck is going to be our winner. Okay. I'm going to put all of these layers in the folder here. So Frederick is going to get his own folder. So thank you again, Frederick, for being our subject matter for today. And I'm sure we'll see him on a future stream. Because I honestly think he's like a perfect example to work with. And I'll put him in different lighting scenarios and just test color and light. Outside
Okay,
our winner.
we're gonna stop from here. All right, we'll save this video later. I just realized this video was 8 years ago. My God, I thought that was like pretty recent. This was 8 years ago, so I don't know. That's crazy. But these are some cool lighting effects. I'm going to study this more, this video again, and I'm going to try to recreate what he did with the duck. I'll make my own duck and try to do the same thing he did. But anyway, I'm going to go. We're going to go play some Fate Trigger. Today's our last day, I believe, of the beta, so we're going to go do that now. If for some reason the beta won't let us play, we'll play fucking Peak. I know Mike is missing playing that with me, so if I can't get on Fate's Trigger for some odd reason, we'll go on Peak. Alright, I'll be right back, guys. We're going to be streaming this on TikTok, YouTube. I'll try to... Yeah, TikTok and YouTube. I'll try to put it on Twitch if I can, but we'll see. But with that said, I'll see you guys in a little bit. Alright.